Hello, everybody. It's Friday night, October 18th. Thanks for joining me. I'm Elena Barbera. Welcome to my show here on the Patriots Prayer Network. Wow, I'm going to talk tonight a lot about Border Patrol and the massive immigration crisis that we're having here, touching on just a few different areas of it. First, I want to talk specifically about our Border Patrol. This has largely been one of the most thankless jobs in America. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I lived in a few different states over the years, but the majority of my life was spent in New York and in Boston, Massachusetts. And we don't think about Border Patrol up there. Most of my life anyway. Now we do. When you live in a border state, I imagine you have friends, family, neighbors who work for the Border Patrol. Us? I remember there was like one kid in Brooklyn who I heard through the grapevine went to work for Border Patrol. And I was like, wow. It was like they told me he went to go work on Mars. Like it was a total different world. We didn't think about that. These guys have been protecting our country for our entire lives. And only in the past few years, when we have a vice president and a president who have completely neglected our national sovereignty, have we really started saying Border Patrol all the time. Everybody's thinking about it. Now, Texas, Arizona, California, they aren't the only border states anymore. Every state is a border state. Maine is having a problem because they're coming in from the north also. They're being shipped in from all over the place. And illegal aliens are being implanted in cities around the country. We know about Colorado. We know about Idaho. Everything has changed. So now, with them under the spotlight, we're learning that the suicide rate among Border Patrol agents is going up because of the stress of what's been going on the past few years. Now, apparently, suicide is actually a problem in the Border Patrol anyway, because they see so many people suffering and having human trafficking issues that I guess they can't take it. I mean, it's a really difficult job. And again, thankless. And we haven't been paying attention, or most of us, to be perfectly honest, haven't. If you grew up on the East Coast, I'd love to hear from you and tell me, how often did you guys talk about Border Patrol in the 80s, 90s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, up until after 2020? This week, though, the National Border Patrol Council, which is the union for all of our Border Patrol officers and agents, they endorsed Donald Trump in Arizona. Let me show you real quick this little endorsement here.
November, we have a choice to make. Continue the chaos, allow the criminal cartels to control the border, to allow drugs and fentanyl across our country, or put an end to it once and for all. On behalf of the 16,000 men and women represented by the National Border Patrol Council, we strongly support and endorse Donald J. Trump for President of the United States.
Another union behind Trump. Just the hits just keep on coming there, Kamala, don't they? So morale is down to the point where they're having trouble recruiting, even though they're offering between $10,000 and $30,000, little enticements, deals. Retirements and people quitting are higher than they've ever been. Retirements on the average have doubled from when you look at what the average retirement numbers were from the Obama and Trump administration. Now they are twice that since 2021. It used to be around 257 early retirements where people were just like, yeah, I'm out. Now it's 529 early retirements a year. That's a lot when we're talking about 16,000 men and women. That's a big number who are just bouncing because they're miserable. And what they're saying is, if Trump doesn't get into office, they're quitting. A lot of them are saying, I don't care about my retirement. The young guys are just like, I'm out. I got enough skills to go get a nice private sector job. I don't need this. The older guys, even the ones close to retirement, are saying they're going to leave. Who is going to protect our border? Who are we going to hire? The illegal aliens? The drug cartels? Because right now that's who's running our border anyway, and they're making billions on it. Now we're going to pay them too, hire them to let all their friends in. That's what we're looking at, because Americans don't want to do this. Americans don't want to keep letting criminals in, watching those criminals rape, murder, and rob their fellow Americans while their hands are tied. They used to take pride in their job, where they were the front lines in this country on home soil, protecting us from foreign invasion. They've been completely demoralized, completely emasculated, completely had their power taken away from them. And they're going to quit if Harris wins. I don't see how she has a path to victory, but we all know what's possible, don't we? When you can be unburdened by, honesty and fair game. So one Border Patrol agent, let me read this to you, was talking to, I think, the Washington Examiner, if I'm correct. And he said, that's what's frustrating for agents, is so many people are encountered and then ultimately released because there's just no resources for detention. The volume exceeds any practical ability for detention. So they come to the border, they hold them for a couple of days, and they're like, okay, they just let them into the country because they don't have enough room. He said, there's a lack of any messaging or policy or action of solid deterrence. We don't deter them. All they hear is come and you're going to get free housing, free healthcare, free food, free phones, free transportation. Some of them, hundreds of thousands, were flown in by the Biden administration, flown in from Haiti, Venezuela. Where was it? Forgive me. It's four countries. I'm spazzing, but there are 4 countries, Venezuela being one of them and Haiti being the other, where they flew them in on commercial jets when you couldn't get flights. And you're wondering why the flight attendants have all gone mean and nasty. They are all like DMV agents now. It's like going to the DMV when you get on a plane. They hate the guests. Well, no wonder. Because they used to be, a respected profession, and now they're like, Greyhound at a Chinatown. That's a rough line. Nothing against the Chinese. Let's see. So we don't have resources to hold them at the border and detain them. We don't have enough space or enough money, because resources includes money, but we do have enough resources to give them all the free things I just mentioned, to fly them around the country, put them on buses, planes, and trains, and send them and have them put up in cities like New York, where 157 hotels are fully booked with illegal aliens being paid for by taxpayers. We have those resources though, right? But we don't have the resources to protect our border. Give me a break. I have so had it. Illegals are up to no good in this country. And I know, there are some good ones. I don't care. Let them go home and come in through the front door. If they're good people, they're going to be productive to this country. We've been saying this since day one. I don't care anymore. When you are killing and raping and robbing American citizens, even a handful among you, and it's way more than a handful, y'all got to go, all of you, because we're not vetting anybody. So we don't know who the good apples are and the bad apples are. So in New York, in Times Square alone, 20 Venezuelan gang members have been arrested for 50 robberies in Times Square, like muggings, stick-ups, kind of things. 20 guys have been arrested for 50. How many they've done that they haven't been caught for, we don't know. But the 50 they have been caught for, those 20 guys, not one of them is in custody. They're all set free on the street to go and do it again. NYPD just came out with this week. How about, remember the apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado that weren't taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and then all of a sudden they were taken over by Venezuelan gangs? Yeah, well, that's still happening there. Now, this week, 4 more apartment complexes in San Antonio, Texas, have been taken over by the Tren de Aragua gang. Now, these people are like MS-13 bad. So in these 4 complexes in San Antonio. They're selling cocaine. God knows what it's laced with. They're running gang operations. They've taken over empty apartments and are renting them out to other people and collecting the rent for themselves. And they're running sex trafficking, where they're keeping women and children as sex slaves. This has been reported this week. But we don't have a problem. Everything's just dandy, isn't it? And it's Donald Trump's fault. Oh, if I hear her say that one more time. So in a conversation specifically about Aurora, J.D. Vance was talking to, her name is Martha Raddatz, I believe ABC News. And this is what she had to say. This is something.
Incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border?
Only a handful. It doesn't really matter if only a handful of them were taken over. Is she out of her mind? I love that he turns around and he's like, did you hear yourself? Are you even in there? They will say anything to defend Kamala Harris. So if it was only one millionaire's, New York City penthouse that got taken over and only one family held hostage, would that be fine, Martha? If it was your family, because it's only one, it doesn't really matter. It's even less than a handful. This is what we're dealing with. The twisting and the turning. And that's a lib news outlet. And I hope the libs saw that and were like, yeah, he's got a point. I'm surprised that they're reporting on it at all, because most of the time when you talk to a lib and you ask them, what do you think about Jocelyn Nungray? They say, who? That's the little girl who I think about every single day, the little 12-year-old who was killed by 2 Venezuelan migrants. But before they strangled her to death, they beat her up and raped her for 2 whole hours. Then they tossed her into a ditch. I am a broken record about this kid and about a lot of these people who have been killed by illegal aliens that Kamala and Joe let in with their completely non-existent border security. Somebody's who's here in the comments. I don't get it, Thad. I don't get it. I don't know what you're saying to me here. They got paid somehow. Yeah, they're all getting paid. Well, a lot of people are making money on the illegal immigrant invasion. Restaurants who are doing these, meal plans that are getting delivered to the hotels are making millions and millions of dollars. Months ago, I did a little, a video on the reporting that came in on Boston and Massachusetts, like Spinelli's in Revere. It's like, like a catering hall and a prepared food type of a place and a restaurant. And they're big. They're well known in the area, making tens of millions of dollars off of their fellow taxpayers while their state goes to hell and crime goes through the roof. Good for you. You can build your ivory tower, but you're going to need it, because the people were going to remember who it was that got rich on the deaths and the rapes and the murders. I'm shaking my head too over here. I'm shaking my head too. I'm so sad about a lot of this, but I'm angry too, because I'm tired of being gaslit and having somebody like Kamala Harris tell us that, none of this is happening, or it doesn't matter that much, or it's Donald Trump's fault. That border bill, that was nothing more than a mass amnesty bill. That was just a small portion. It was just a giant spending bill with this much of it set aside for the border so that they could call it a border bill when they knew that Republicans wouldn't go for it. They keep blaming Donald Trump, who's not even in any sort of office right now, because he said it was a bad bill and they shouldn't sign it. Well, yeah, as usual, he was right. Thank you, Valiant Thor, for liking and subscribing. If you're here for the first time, please like and subscribe, and or any number of times. Please like and subscribe, and thank you. I appreciate that. So, I love to talk about illegal alien crimes, because this is something that I cannot stand, watching my fellow countrymen suffer unnecessarily. So the libs are going to turn around and be like, oh, there are plenty of Americans who are rapists and murderers. And I'm like, yeah, good point. Good point. We have enough freaking problems. We don't need the rest of the world's problems too. Can we clean up our own street first? Let's give it a try. And then if you want to help people, why don't you go over there and help and do the root cause thing like Kamala, right? Because you're not doing anything. You just want rich people to pay their fair share. Oh, side note, rich people. I just found out recently that John Kerry, John Kerry, who ran for president, he's like, the climate change guy who rides around in his private jet while he wants you to drink out of a paper straw. He's married to Teresa Heinz, who is the heir to the Heinz ketchup empire. I mean, these people have more money than God. So they have this house in Lewisburg Square in Beacon Hill in Boston. Very exclusive neighborhood, very nice, but it's in the city. Their piece of property that this house stands on, it's a townhouse, brownstone. It's like 4 or 5 stories. Piece of property is 5% of an acre. All right. It's a postage stamp. It's more of a vertical brownstone. They pay $200,000 a year in property taxes to the city of Boston. I don't like John Kerry at all. At all. He recently said that the First Amendment is standing in the way of getting the truth out and making sure people tell the truth. Like, he wants to get rid of your free speech rights and any good that you have in your life. He wants to take away from you because he is living so high on the hog. He has no idea what's actually going on out here. None. So $200,000 a year in property taxes. I can't stand these people, and I want to defend them. That is absurd. So all these people out here, oh, the rich don't pay their fair share. I'm sorry. $200,000 for property taxes alone on a postage stamp just because it happens to be in the city is absurd. What is the government doing with our money? That's all anybody should be asking. Not, we need more money to come in. Not, what have you done with the money you've already got? I mean, what do these people do in their real lives? Do they think money just magically grows on trees? They know it doesn't. They all struggle, which is why they're all reaching up for free handouts. I don't want free handouts. I want the government to back off and get their fingers out of my life. Anyway, that was a side rant. Back to the illegal aliens. So I found 3 crimes from this summer that are new to me. I didn't know about them, but I have a list this long, like so long, that I'm keeping of illegal alien crimes in this country. And it's not even the beginning of what's complete. It's the tip of the iceberg. On July 7th, Honduran national Carlos Roberto Diaz, 18 years old, a kid, and an unnamed juvenile, 16. Why is he unnamed? Okay, this is an illegal alien. Why we got to protect his identity? They have more rights than we do. Okay, so the 18-year-old and the 16-year-old went on a random shooting spree in Charlotte, North Carolina, killing Mustafa Muhammad and non-fatally wounding 2 other people. Diaz entered the U.S. illegally in 2019 with his father when he was 14. He was encountered by the U.S. Border Patrol along the Rio Grande, but it is unclear how or why he was allowed in the country. Okay, imagine. On July 21st, Honduran national Axel Flores Cordova killed Rylan Oncali and Talia Crochet in a drunk driving crash in La Fourche Parish, Louisiana. The 18-year-old illegal alien was also driving without a license. We hear this one all the time. Driving without a license, drunk driving, it never stops. Other passengers were injured and had to be hospitalized. See, again, we already have a drunk driving problem in this country. Why are we bringing more problems in? These people should be alive. I don't know if you've ever lost anybody to drunk driving. I have lost several people at different parts of my life, both family and friends and work colleagues to drunk driving. It's horrific. Horrific what this family had to be going through. Completely, entirely preventable on so many levels. But they're so bold. Just drive around without a license, get smashed, get behind the wheel, kill Americans. Who cares? That poor cop in St. Louis. He was on the beat for 18 years. He got killed by that drunk illegal driving around. But the cop was on the side of the road helping some people out after an accident. And the guy just drove into him, pins the officer, killed him. Oh, and that was a black officer, but his black life didn't matter. On July 28th, Salvadorian national Jose Aguilar Martinez allegedly killed Melody Waldecker, a mother of 4 and grandmother of 8, at a 7-Eleven location in Sterling, Virginia. Waldecker noticed Aguilar's Martinez breaking into her car, and when she attempted to stop him, he fatally struck her while making his escape. The illegal alien entered the U.S. at an unspecified time as a getaway. What in the hell is going on? How did we not hear that one? How did we not hear a mother killed at a 7-Eleven in Virginia by an illegal alien who was stealing her car? How did we miss that? It's almost as if they don't want us to know about it. But there's purpose behind it all. The first phase is, of course, for them, which is already in action, to register all these illegals onto our voter rolls. And for the past several years, they've been telling us that voter ID is racist. And they started by using the Black community and saying, Black people can't get ID, so showing an ID to vote is racist. Like, if you told me that because of let's say because I'm a woman, that voter ID was sexist because I'm too stupid to get an ID, I would never vote for you. I would be like, okay, go drop dead. I can see what you think of me. Fine. The Black community is waking up to how they've been used and how they're being talked to like they're idiots. Imagine somebody saying that about you. You're too dumb. We'll just make this easy for you. You need an ID for every other single thing in your entire life, but voting, no, we're going to convince people that voter ID is racist. They did that as a setup for what they're doing now, which is getting the illegals on the voter rolls so that people would get used to the idea of having no voter ID. We're not used to it. We're not okay with it. It is extremely important to have secure elections. And they keep saying it's secure. I mean, just the sick things that come out of the Democrats' mouths. So the first phase now is to get them all to vote, right? So that's why all these illegals are pouring in here. Now, Kamala this week came out with another conversation around how hard it is to get an ID. And I guess it wasn't playing well with the Black people anymore. So she decided to basically say that country bumpkins don't know how to get an ID to vote either. Listen to this.
Agreeing to voter ID one of those compromises that you'd support?
I don't think that we should underestimate what that could mean. Because in some people's mind, that means, well, you're going to have to Xerox or photocopy your ID to send it in to prove you are who you are. Well, there are a whole lot of people, especially people who live in rural communities, who don't. There's no Kinko's, there's no Office Max near them. People have to understand that when we're talking about voter ID laws, be clear about who you have in mind and what would be required of them to prove who they are. Of course, people have to prove who they are, but not in a way that makes it almost impossible for them to prove who they are.
Of course, people have to prove who they are, but not in a way that makes it almost impossible for them to prove who they are. What? Okay. It is not anywhere near impossible to prove who you are First of all, it is nowhere near impossible to get an ID as an American citizen. It is also nowhere near impossible to photocopy said ID, even if you don't have a Kinko's, because the only way you get into a Kinko's is to have a goddamn time machine to take you back 20 years, because Kinko's doesn't even exist anymore. This is how out of touch this woman is with our daily lives, that she just said they don't have Kinko's. That was the last time. In 2020, I think it was, not 2020, in the year 2000, when Kinko's was bought by FedEx, that is probably the last time Kamala had to do anything for herself out in the real world. But she was raised in a middle-class family, so she knows exactly what you and I are going through out here. So now, because she was on BET there, she couldn't say the Black people can't get voter IDs anymore. She didn't want to touch that there. So she made it about the rural people, the bumpkins, because they don't have Kinko's. Imagine this is what she's doing. So now, again, going after another group, again, making it like it is so out of reach for everyday Americans to get an ID that we just should get rid of voting ID. We should just let everybody walk in, give a thumbs up, and fill in whatever. We'll just give out as many ballots as we want. It doesn't even matter. Doesn't even matter. Just throw out on the ballots. Well, I'll just fill them in. Give me 100 million ballots. Give them to me. You know who I'm filling in? Donald J. Trump. Except I'm not a lying cheat, so I'm not going to do that. But you get my point. Anyway, the next phase, once she gets all the illegals to vote, is she's obviously going to get them to all vote blue. And there won't be a red state left in the country, which is why they're planting the illegals all over the country in red states, in little red pockets, so they can take over Congress. They can take over the Fed. And once they take over Congress and they take over the federal government, then they'll take over the Supreme Court. This will all be blue. And then we will go next step into communism. It's like so clear what's happening. They're not even really hiding it. I mean, they do now and then. They'll say, oh, got to protect democracy. We're not even a democracy. So they don't really bother. Really disturbing. Really, really hard to watch, hard to imagine. I hope you're praying for this country in earnest. I mean that. I hope you are earnestly asking God to protect us from the evil that's infiltrating our schools, our universities. It's already in our government. It's in our food. It's in our hospital system. I was talking to a friend who has a family member who is extremely ill, like has an infection so bad, could die. And they were there, and this person they're at the hospital. This person was so sick and nauseous that she couldn't eat, she couldn't drink, and she's supposed to be getting Tylenol every 4 hours because her fever is persistent with this infection. And my friend was there, and she's like, where's the Tylenol? She can't take the Tylenol. Can you give her an IV Tylenol? And they said, we're not allowed to give that because it's too expensive. So you're going to let this person with a severe infection just let her fever go wild when she can't keep anything down because she can't swallow a pill because the insurance companies and the administration told you not to give IV Tylenol? This is what we are up against. We are dead last in our healthcare system, in our schools. Our schools are overrun with illegal alien children who don't speak English. Teachers are overwhelmed. They will keep voting for this, though, because their union tells them to. You're driving down the road. Americans are getting killed by illegals, unlicensed illegals, drunk and sober, driving like they're in a third world country on our streets. But I saw this one little thing this week. There were these two little girls whose family lost their house in Hurricane Helene in North Carolina. And this video is going viral of them. I believe they're sisters. And it is two tiny little babies singing Jesus loves me. I have to show you this.
Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so.
All right. Now, if that didn't warm your heart, then you have an iceberg in your chest. To see innocent little children lose everything. They have no idea what's going on around this country. They have no idea that they're about to grow up into some kind of a Kamala Harris crime-ridden, rapey, murderous hell if we don't take our country back. And they're being taught to keep their faith, to love God, to know that they are loved. And I hope they keep that no matter what, because in reality, their government hates them. 2 little white girls who love Jesus, they're on the hit list. They're on the ruin your life list. Those little angels. Jesus loves you guys too. You should probably start loving him back, man, because hell's about to break loose. What do you think is going to happen next? Any ideas? What are we in for this week? I don't have the clip handy. I wish I did, but I'm going to talk about it in my next episode. What Kamala Harris did last night with her mocking of Catholicism, with Molly Shannon running around in a Catholic schoolgirl dress, saying how much she loves Kamala, her and all her friends. They hate when that mean old Donald Trump calls you names. Yeah, right. Because Catholic school is teaching that we should be aborting 1 million babies a year in America, and 600,000 of them by a pill that flushes them down the toilet. That's what Catholicism is. No, it's not. Anyway, yeah, I'm mad about everybody, but not Jesus. That was pretty cool, those little girls, and I'm gonna think about them so I don't scream myself to sleep tonight again. All right, guys, I'm out of here. It's Friday night. Go do something fun. Again, if you can, drop a sub, drop a like, drop a comment, share this if you liked it. Although it was pretty much a big old Debbie Downer, right? Here's everything horrible that's happening. Yes, I know. I guess once in a while I'll say something positive. I don't think we'll ever have an entirely positive show unless we turn this country around, and it's just like nothing but good news. It's not going to be good news for a long time, just in case you're wondering. Even when Trump wins on November 5th and is inaugurated on January 20th, don't forget it's going to take a couple of years for things, and the devils are going to go absolutely ape. The people that want to trans the kids are going to fight harder. The people who want to put porn in the kids' hands are going to fight harder. They're going to start fighting harder to keep the illegals and pour more illegals in. They're going to do everything they can to make it impossible for him to restore sanity to America. So plan on things getting worse before they get better, no matter what. But at least if he wins, we have a shot of him getting better. All right. I'm going to go read a book about optimism or something, because this is getting to me. All right. Thank you so much, guys, for coming. This was fun, as always. God bless America. God bless you. Good night, everybody.